Hello, hello. Welcome to episode 24 of the Brew from the Bothy podcast. My name is Fay. Thank you for coming and joining me. Hopefully you've got a brew in hand. I haven't, I've forgotten one, so I might remedy that in a minute. Cut, go and get myself one and come back. But I have also just noticed that I have soup down my boob. The boob shelf has been doing its job this morning, so apologies. I don't have a brew with me, but I do have soup down me. I can't be bothered to go and get changed, and I don't think you'll care. So we're just going to continue with lunch down my front and get into the podcast. I hope you're all really well. I just wanted to say off the top of the podcast that my accent is obviously very Scottish, and sometimes it might be a bit more Scottish than others. I don't know why that is. I think it just depends on what mood I'm in. But if you struggle to understand me, you can either slow me down. There's a way of doing that within YouTube. So maybe slow me down by 20%. Sometimes that helps. But I also put a lot of time and effort into every single podcast to do the captions so that I make sure that they're as accurate as I can get them, and that it isn't the ones that YouTube come up with or CapCut, my video editing software. So I always try and make sure that my captions are as good as I can get them so that I know that they are representing what it is that I'm actually saying in the podcast. So if my Scottish accent is a little too much, you can try slowing me down or turn the captions on because they're my captions. Or maybe you can just understand me. I have quite a soft Scottish accent, but I think sometimes my train of thought just goes and my sentence structure gets a bit wacky, and maybe it can be a bit hard to understand sometimes. So I'm deliberately trying to calm it down in this episode and still be Scottish, but maybe you can understand me Scottish. Let's dig in anyway. I've got quite a lot to show you. I say that every time because I've always done quite a lot, but let's start with what I am wearing. I'm basically channeling Fisherman today. That's where I'm at. I've got green cords on, my denim top, and a nice little shawl thing. This is one of the first things I ever made. It is the first lace weight project that I ever did. I don't know if it's completely accurate, but I really enjoyed making it. It definitely pushed me. I know that I had to tear it back at one point, but this is probably 10 years old now, this project, and I have not worn it enough. And as I said last time round, I'm trying to get some of my lesser worn items out of my wardrobe and on me, particularly my shawls. So this is called the Estuary wrap or shawl. It's a tin can knits pattern and it's a free one. It is actually, I think, quite an easy lace repeat, and it's really beautiful, and it's one skein of 4-ply yarn. Now the yarn that I used for this is sadly no longer available. It was by a company called Baa Ram Ewe, which they're still operating, but this yarn was their Titus 4-ply, and I think that's long gone and been discontinued. But it was a really nice blend of, I think, alpaca and do I want to say mohair? Alpaca, Blueface Leicester and Wensleydale. So it's got this lovely sheen to it. It's very warm, and because the alpaca content isn't that high, it hasn't got that prickle factor to it. So it's just really nice up and around my neck, and I'm enjoying wearing this today. And it's maybe been 9 years since I've worn this, so I'm pleased to have it out of my wardrobe, round my neck, keeping me warm and getting a new lease of life. And I'm just going to keep on doing this when I've got something, like when the outfit works, I'm going to show you a shawl of my past that I am bringing back into circulation. So Estuary by Tin Can Knits, I will link to it. It's a free pattern, and yes, I really recommend it as a first lace pattern. pretty sure this is full of mistakes. I don't think it's meant to kink like that, but I quite like the little kink that it's got. Somebody asked the question last time round, how do I circulate my shawls and the things I want to wear and the things I don't? And what I have is most of my handmade stuff lives upstairs in our bedroom, but I have 2 boxes downstairs where we keep all of our shoes, all of my many coats, and basically what I'm trying to do is pull bits down from upstairs that I think I'm going to wear, bring them downstairs, put them in the boxes, so that when I go to look for a scarf or a shawl or a hat, then I've got something new to wear, and it's a bit like finding a whole new wardrobe. I do this with my summer winter wardrobe anyway. I rotate them, I clean them all down, put them away, let my summer clothes went away for the winter. And then what I love about that is when I get them back out again, so I'll probably get my summer clothes out in May, it's like having a whole new wardrobe available to me. Like I've just gone on a big shopping spree, but it's cost me nothing. And I've done that, this is the 3rd year I've done it, 2nd or 3rd year now. And it's been great fun to go back through a whole new wardrobe, and then I get the same thing 6 months later when I pull up my winter wardrobe. And that's what I'm trying to do with my shawls and scarves, is basically view them as something that's fresh and exciting and there to be worn. And it seems to be working so far. So if you too have got lots of shawls and bits and pieces that you're not wearing, I would thoroughly recommend bringing them to somewhere that you're more likely to put them on when you're heading out the door. Or even like today, I'm going nowhere, but I want to look pretty for all of you, so I've obviously got a little scarf on, and this is keeping me really nice and warm as well out in the office. So because my neck is warm, I don't need to wear a jumper today. So it's kind of hitting that element as well of wearing my makes, my knitwear, my crochet in a different way, but still being really nice and warm. Somebody asked how I actually like not store them, but hang them as well. And I don't hang them because I think that takes up a lot more space. And in these boxes, I can just squidge them down and then have a rifle through and find the next things I want to wear. So that's what I've been doing, and certainly it's been working over the last few weeks, and I've been wearing things I haven't worn for years. Like I say, this is probably made 10 years ago and not been worn for 9 years, so it's finally getting its day. Right, would you like to know what is off my hooks? I have just finished quite a big, it's not like a big garment, it just took a very long time. It's fully graded out. It just took a long time to make because there are intricate elements to it. And I finished it at the weekend, and I could feel the relief kind of swamping off my body. I had got myself like, not hit up, but I was like so determined to finish this garment and get the pattern away this weekend that I was like just doing all the hours and working all the weekends just to get it to the point where it was finished. And I finished up on Saturday afternoon. It was just like a release of tension that came off my body, so that felt really good. Now I can't show you that one because it is a commission, but I will do probably in the next 2 to 3 months when it goes live in the publication. But one that I can show you, because Inside Crochet have just put the front cover live on Instagram, which means that hopefully my copy will arrive this afternoon. They're really good at sending designers through copies of the magazine when they go live. And the thing that I've got in this next issue, it's 186 of Inside Crochet, is called the Halo Cowl, as in glowy halo. And this I have worked up in 2 different colours. Here's the first one, and the whole premise of this was to use little bits and pieces of mini skeins up, and I have paired it up with Drops Alpaca and the Drops Kid-Silk, their mohair, and that mohair strand is held across all of this project. So what it does is it brings a real continuity across all of the colours, and then the alpaca is just held as the main colour on the kind of alternate colour that you can see right the way through. So with just, how many we've got? 6 different mini skeins. I think it used 10 grams for each one, and then it really wasn't a lot of Drops alpaca, and you have got this amazing floofy, I'm gonna double floof myself, amazing floofy cowl that just is so warm. Now this is the first time that I'd worked with Drops alpaca. It's a 4-ply, and oh wow, it was beautiful to work with. A lot of drape, felt very luxurious. It was really beautiful. So what I wanted to do for the commission I did for Inside Crochet was show it off in really subtle colours, and then show how using the same premise for some, let's call them less subtle colours, can really make the colours step back a couple of paces. So let me find, where did I put them? Excuse the crinkle, but I want to keep them in the bag so I can show you all the colours. But all of these really quite bright colours, so there's green, bright yellow, there's pinks, reds, all sorts in there, are really quite bright, and I've teamed them up with a mid-grey and a mid-grey mohair also. And what that does is takes those really bright colours and just mutes them back a little bit. The exact same premise. This has got the strand, every single one of these colourful mini skeins has got a strand of the mid-grey mohair in it as well, and it just tames them a little bit. If I can show you, I'm going to hold up the crinkle bag again. You can see how that brightness has just been tamed a little bit. Like, not so much that you can't see the colours, but just enough that it's not like a proper big hurt your eyeballs rainbow. So with this design, the Halo Cowl, you can go subtle, lovely, or you can really pop it up. Now this one is the exact same pattern, but it's just done with a fewer number of stitches, and I've just used 12 colours instead of 6, and used only 5 grams of these ones. So 6 times 10 grams for the big long one, I think it was, and 12 times 5 grams for the tall kind of chimney type cowl, which again is just a proper little hug of a cowl. It's so nice and warm. You could snood it. I'm not going to do that to my hair, but you could like properly bring it up and over, or you can double it over if you want. But I really enjoyed working with the Drops alpaca. Sorry, I now have fibres everywhere. I really enjoyed working with the Drops alpaca and the mohair together, and you can just see how, I think it's coming across on the screen, how soft and like haloed and floofy this is. It's a little hug of a cowl, to be honest. So that one is the Halo Cowl. I was working on this back in October. That's how this stuff works. I had to get the pattern in for October, and then you have to wait for months before it actually hits print. So those two are in the current. I think it's literally about to launch today, tomorrow. If when I go in to make my brew, the magazine has arrived, I'll show you a quick flick through of that, because I really like the photography. It's a slightly older woman. I say older, she's probably about my age, with a nice Aran cardigan on. It's nice. So Halo Cowl, great way of using up mini skeins, and you don't need full mini skeins. Literally 5 grams would do it for the chimney, the tall one. So if you've got bits and pieces, but you can pull together a cohesive colour palette, or not, if that's not your thing. It only took, I think it was, I tell you what, I'll put it in the drop down rather than me pretending I can remember what the different quantities are. If you're interested in this, I will link to Inside Crochet, and I will pop the quantities in the drop down for you. So that is off my hook. On my hook, but it has gone nowhere, is the retro cowl, and there's a reason for this. I spoke about it a couple of weeks back, I think, maybe a month ago, And I was saying that I just thought there was too much crossover from the green into the purple. There was too much green in the purple and it wasn't defining the green block enough. And the very fact that I haven't picked this up for 4 weeks, if that's how long it is, means that I now know that there's a problem with it and I don't want to go to it because I know that that green isn't right. And if that is the case, then it's time to swap it out and do something different with it. One of the things that I'm trying to get better at as a, not just as a designer, but actually as a crafter, is to trust my gut. And if I don't think that something is right, then I need to stop, take stock and work out whether it genuinely isn't right or if it's something that I can get over. And more often than not now, I know it isn't something that I can get over. So I am going to rip this back. I'm going to take all of the green out. I'm going to continue with the blue, and I will continue with the variegated yarn because that was the whole point, was to use this variegated skein. So I'm sticking to my guns on that one. But I have just ordered another skein. This is going to be quite an expensive design by the time I've finished with it. I've just ordered another skein to replace the green, which is in quite a bright orange colour, which is either going to look really clashy and amazing or disgusting, but I'm hoping we're going for the clashy amazing side of it, which is what this should be. This should be a really clashy project, but you can see there's just not enough difference in the read through of these two colours, so something has to change. The orange is going to look amazing against this petrol teal blue. Let's see. I've literally just ordered it before I started the podcast, so that will be some incoming yarn for next time, but I'll try and pop a photo up here so you can see the colour that I'm going to use, because fingers crossed it will work. Right, I'm going to get a brew. Okay, I am back. I've got myself a hot juice because Ribena Winterberry is still in the shops, although they've just reduced it all down, so it won't be there for much longer, but I have stocked up because it's my favourite hot juice. Right, I am back. I have a hot juice. What are we going through next? Off my needles. And this is where my Fisherman outfit really completes itself. I finished the hat for Matthew. This is in Sheepsoft by Laxton's. It's 100% British wool and it's a blend of Blueface Leicester and Massam. The colourway is called Malum and it used, I think it was just under 75 grams for this. So I have a 25 gram nugget left, which I'll talk about in a minute. It's a really simple 1x1 rib hat. I was having a play around with decreases just to see how I could work up a crown decrease based on 12 segments. That's what I was doing. So it's maybe not as neat because I was playing around with it. And there's a tiny little bit of like a nipple at the top, which is one of the changes I would make. But this is for Matthew up a mountain. He will not care. But I did put it on and I was like, I think I might want this hat. But he definitely wants it. It's, if I pull it down, he's got a bigger head than me. It's okay. But if I don't, it does that thing that I hate, that I just can't, it looks ridiculous. But if I pull it down, I really like it. I've never really worn a double brim hat like this, and I bought one. I found a really good deal one, which is pure cashmere in TK Maxx over Christmas, and I bought it for myself because that actually suited it. So it's got me thinking that maybe I could do a double brim hat, but I feel like this completes my fisherman look, and the fish I caught was this big. So Matthew's very pleased with it. If I was being a mean wife, I would say it suits me better than him. Maybe not mean, just truthful. But it's his, so he's going to keep it. Really lovely and warm. Although it's a DK, I used 3.5mm needles for it to get that really tight gauge, but it's got mega stretch on it. and it's lovely and warm. I would use this yarn again. You can buy it direct from Laxton's website. I'll pop a link down below. They've got all sorts of lovely colours. A lot of them are natural. I believe this is a natural undyed colour, malum. You can see I haven't woven in the end. But would make some changes to the crown decrease. I was just playing with this one, but I now need to make another one in the green flecks. So we will see when that gets done. But yeah, pretty happy with the hat. Would like to steal it. I'm not allowed to, but that's fine. I can just make myself my own. I have designs of making a crocheted version with yarn over slip stitch ribbing. Again, we'll see when that happens. But off my needles, this was a Pearl Soho rib hat beanie pattern. I just didn't do as many repeats in this section from the brim up, and I changed the crown decreases based on 12 segments, just to get that really kind of flattened off crown and make sure it's not kind of boob shaped on the top of his head, and it fitted. So he's very happy. I'm very happy that he likes it, and another project done. But what I wanted to question is, that was 100 grams. I've now got 25 grams left. And this is where I constantly run into trouble, because I then think, well, I should go and buy another 100 grams of this, because then I can do something more with this little nugget, which I think is a really awkward way of looking at yarn purchasing and yarn ownership. And I would love to know, just what do you do when you've got 25 grams left? What are you doing with it? Because it's really lovely wool, and I don't want to just like give it away to charity, but I don't necessarily have loads of things that I want to make with it. What do you do with all your scrappy bits? And also, like, how do you remember what it is? How are you storing it? I'd love to know, because maybe you can stop me from then just going and buying another 100 grams and pairing them together, so I've got a future bigger project that I can do with this, which is part of a bit of a cycle that I want to get out of, which is I don't want to own so much wool. So I'd love to know, what do you do with your bits when you're finished? Should I just be getting, like, let it go, off to charity, to wherever, rather than holding on for dear life? But maybe it's really handy to have for next time I want to do a design or something in this yarn, and it's my swatch. This is the problem. I'm a little yarn hoarder. I don't want to just waste it. And you know, it's £15, so that's £3.50 worth of yarn that I want to get like worth out of. Yeah, I'd love to know what you do, because I don't want to have so much yarn at the end of this year. I have a lot. Yeah. And like, here's the issue, because this is exactly what happened. We're moving on to On My Needles. I did a cowl a couple of months back in this. It is West Yorkshire Spinners Fable yarn. It's an Aran weight. It's beautiful. It's lovely to work with. I wanted to make a matching hat. Didn't have enough for a matching hat, so I ordered another ball of yarn like you do, but I was being lazy and didn't double check this colour against the ball band. Thought I had ordered the right colour, and I absolutely have not. What I've ordered is fawn. So this is why I'm saying, what, like with this little bit from Laxton's, this is exactly what I've done. I've thought, well, I'll order more because then I can make more out of the little bit that I've got left. But I've ordered the wrong colour, so I still can't make a hat out of this. And I didn't want a hat out of this colour, because what I wanted was a hat and mittens. And now, because it's two different colours, I don't have enough for a hat and for mittens. So I need help. That's what I'm saying. I need help to reframe what I do with the odds and sods of yarn to get me over it. So I need to find another thing to do with this bit, which I now don't have enough for the thing I wanted to make. It's also not enough for the mittens that I've started. But the mittens are these. They are called honeycomb mittens. They are by Tin Can Knits. I'm sure lots of you have heard of Tin Can Knits. They're a very popular designer and their patterns are very usable. They were, the estuary shawl was Tin Can Knits. So they just do really good designs. Their patterns work well, they're well tested, they're well loved within the crafting sector, and I'm trying to use up some older patterns that I've got. I've been rifling through my pattern stash and I wanted to make mittens, and I found this pattern. I've never made them, so I thought time to make use of what I've already got rather than go trawling the internet for a new set of mittens. So I've finished the second repeat. I've got one more repeat to do and the thumb to sort out, and then that will be my right hand mitten done. I suspect that this is going to take maybe about 70 grams of yarn. So I'm going to have 30 grams left of this one, and this is, I think, 45 grams. So maybe I could do a hat and I could stripe the hat. That would look quite nice and subtle. So the overall plan is that these mittens will sit on top of these gloves, and what it tends to do is it extends the length of my wrists being kept warm, and it keeps my palms warm, and my fingers therefore stay warmer as well. As much as I run really hot, my extremities, my fingers and my toes don't, so I suffer from chilblains in the winter. So I'll be roasting hot on all of my body apart from fingertips and my toes. So I will do everything to try and protect them, basically. So I only started this yesterday. It's a really quick knit because the Fable yarn it's down as an Aran, but actually it's 166 metres per 100 grams, so that's quite a chunky Aran. So they're really quick to knit up, and it's quite a nice dense fabric as well. I'm using a 4.5mm needle for that. This one will be finished tonight and I'll have the next one started. But one of the things I wanted to show you that I've been doing of late, I've been practicing it on socks and jumpers and anything else that I'm casting on. So this needed, I think it was 36 stitches as the cast on. And what I actually did was cast on 37. Sometimes I find with knit and with crochet that when you go to join the round, you get a little step down where you're going from the cast on edge into your stitches. It's probably a bit more pronounced in crochet, I think. But if you cast on an extra stitch with knitting, and when you've got your full round and you're about to join into the round, what I do is pass the first cast on stitch onto my right hand needle purlwise, and then I slip my last stitch over that first one. And what that does is, instead of giving you that jog, gives you just a much neater join in the round before you then start working. And I can show you how that is looking here. So there's my round join, just one extra stitch slipped over the last stitch, slipped over the first stitch, and it's just given me a much neater join in the round. Now I need to do some work on this, but I am pretty sure there's a way of doing this in crochet as well. How often do you go to join in the round, you come all the way around with your stitches, and then there's this massive step down from your first stitch to your, or step up from your first stitch to your last stitch of that first round, and it can be really quite prominent. I think there's probably a little trick in the same vein as the one that I'm using for knitting that you can use for crochet, but I just need to work out how I can do that. So I'm going to try and have a little play with that in the next week or so, and hopefully report back in 2 weeks' time, because I find it really frustrating that it's just not as finessed as I want it to be. And I used to have that issue with knitting, and I came across this little trick and it works, and it just looks a little bit neater. I mean, it's marginal, but finesse is important to me, so I'm pleased about that. If you haven't tried it, give it a try. Definitely elevates your knitting a little bit, and hopefully I will have a solution to elevate the crochet for the exact same scenario as well. So honeycomb mitts, they will be finished very shortly. And then I kind of don't know what I'm going to cast on next. Maybe that shawl for my mum, maybe that needs to come and have its moment. We'll see. I also have a jumper that I need to sort out, but that might be next time. So that is on my needles. What else is there? Oh, another question that I had for you is, one of the things that I'm trying to do this year, I was given this notebook for Christmas by my friend Heather. Years ago, I was really good at noting down all of the project details for something that I was making. I used to keep track of how many meters it was, how many grams. And so I've just restarted a little practice of noting down what I'm making each month, basically. So far I'm just noting down what the yarn was, the colour that I've used, how many grams I've used, the needle or hook size, and how many stitches or what size I used. But for anybody else who notes this stuff down, am I missing anything? Is there anything that you keep a note of with a project that would genuinely be helpful and that you find helpful to refer back to? I think if I had changes in a project, then I would maybe pop that down there as well. Like if I did so many extra rows or only knitted it to this amount or crocheted it this wide, I would maybe add that in as well. But for those of you that are note keepers of your projects, what do you keep in your notebook? Like, what do you tell yourself so you can reflect back on? All too often over the last couple of years, I've needed to go back and find out what I did with the project, and I haven't kept any notes. So that is why 2026 is a year that I get back into just keeping a little tally of what I've been up to. It's also quite nice just to go back and go, oh yeah, I've made all those things this year, or I've done this many jumpers, I've crocheted this many things. I quite like that, kind of keeping a running total. So very much back into this, but if you've got any like hot tips for me, please pass them along. Is there anything else for you? I'm not sure that there is, other than to say, this is totally off topic, but I went to see Hamnet on Saturday. I have been desperate to see this film. I think Jessie Buckley is amazing, and she was just phenomenal playing Agnes Shakespeare's wife, basically. It was just an amazing film. It was beautifully shot. The soundscape for it was gorgeous. The score is by Max Richter, who's one of my favourite contemporary classical composers, and so the film score is just amazing, and I really hope that they get all the Oscars for that film. I loved it. It was a 10 out of 10 for me. So I'm not sure it's going to be in the cinema for much longer. If you get the chance to see it in a cinema, I definitely would, because it really suits that big screen atmosphere. But if you don't, then, and when it comes out on streaming, definitely it's one to watch. It's so beautiful. I cried. I don't mind telling you, I cried and cried and cried. There was somebody about 3 rows down from us who I just could hear sobbing their heart out for about an hour, because it's heart-wrenching and it's beautiful and it's sad. And I've just felt so sorry for them because they just couldn't control themselves. I just had little silent tears running down my face for a long, long time. And I was glad I took hankies in with me, because it's so deeply sad but also really beautiful and moving. So if you haven't been yet and you wanted to go and see it, go and watch Hamnet. Thoroughly recommend it as a film. It was beautiful. I think that's everything. I think we are. I always come to this and I think, oh, I haven't got much to share. And then I pull together all the projects that I've got, and there's always loads there. Always lots of stuff to share with you. So, on that note, I'm going to bid you farewell. Thank you so much for coming and having a brew with me. I will see you in 2 weeks' time. I'm off to use the rest of the daylight and take a front cover photo of me looking like a fisherman. So that's what I'm off to do. Until 2 weeks, I am weaving.